Welcome to the Love of the Star podcast. I'm Bobby Belt, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105 through the Fan in Dallas, your radio flagship home of the Dallas Cowboys. Joined as always by former Super Bowl winning NFL scout Brian Broaddus. He is now the co-host of the G-Bag Nation on that very same 105 through the Fan in Dallas, 2 to 7 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday. He is the pre- and post-game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network, and he is the co-host and really the godfather of the draft show on DallasCowboys.com. Brian, how you doing today?
And yes, as mentioned, that is Bobby Belt at 105.3 The Fan. He's the Cowboys insider. He also has his own show that you need to give a listen to, 5:30 to 10, Monday through Friday on 105.3 The Fan. Host with, of course, this The Love of the Star, which, by the way, thank you to everybody out there for making us as popular as we've been.
Yes.
We do appreciate you very, very much. Seriously, I'm not bluffing on this one. You guys make this what it is. So thank you for that. Bobby's also on the draft show, and we're getting ready for that. Robert, I'm doing great. My LSU Tigers, my women Tigers, I lost 200 followers on Twitter because of defending my Institute of Higher Sports. I'm not going to say higher learning. I'm going to say higher sports, because that was the 50th national championship for all our sports teams at Louisiana State University. So if you're one of those folks that dropped me because of my LSU love, I'm really sorry about that, but I'll try and do my best for you on these podcasts. How about that?
Here's what I'll say. And
there's some Kim Mulkey hate out there right now.
This isn't even about Kim. Love you, Brian. I love David Hellman, another LSU grad.
You're going to call us arrogant, aren't you? You're going to call us arrogant LSU fans. Like, people have done that. They're like, I didn't realize how arrogant LSU fans are.
Oh, I realized it. Here's what I will just say. You got to admit this. You guys may be the most insufferable winners on the face of the earth. When you win,
no question.
There's no question that you've won. We don't have to wonder who won last night. You'll let us know. Colin Baton Rouge. Shout out Garth Brooks there. Yeah, my Baton Rouge. There you go. Brian flashing the Colin Baton Rouge shirt. But this is, I'll say that. One of my favorite stories in the world, and I'll tell this really quickly. David Hellman, the year that LSU really started popping off and really started winning some games.
Something to beat Texas opening day?
No, this was around that. It was like the fourth week of the season, something like that. We're in the locker room, and Jason Witten walks up to Hellman. This was 2019, I guess. And as you know, if a player approaches you in the locker room and says, hey, I want to talk to you, that's not always a good thing.
That's scary. That's a scary, because I've had Jason Witten go, hey, I want to talk to you, and almost grab my shirt to drag me outside. So yeah, I understand what's going on.
That's what happened. How it walked up to him. He said, Dave, I want to talk to you. And Dave was like, uh-oh. Like it said later, he's like, what did I write? What did I say? And Witten tells him, he says, Dave, you ever seen me score a touchdown before? He's like, yeah. It's like, what do I do when I score a touchdown? He says, I don't know. What do you mean? And he goes, just, walk in the end zone, take the ball, toss it back to the ref. Did you ever see Walter Payton score a touchdown? Score, you just kind of toss the ball back. Reggie White, Bruce Smith, get sacks, get back to the huddle. So you saw that? It's like, yeah. So he goes, well, what are you saying? He goes, yeah, all right, I just want to make sure you see that. So my question is, why, after winning a couple games, can't LSU act like they've bleeping been there before? And he's like, my God, you guys act like you won the blanket national championship. It's week 4. And just starts, and Dave goes like, leave me alone. But Dave heavy, oh my gosh, thank God, that's all it was. But Witten said,
Jason Witten MFing you is not a fun thing. I was on the staff that brought him to the Cowboys. So when he grabbed me, it was like he launched into every other word was an F-bomb. And I just sit there and I'm like, okay, but there was something I said and he just wasn't happy about it, and he wasn't having any of it. So I understand where Hellman was when a player walks up to you and says, "Hey man, can I have a word with you?" Then you're like, okay, here we go. But yeah, LSU, I will say this: when LSU loses and people come after me, I'll take it. I'll take it. I won't fight back. I'll just take it and all that. But man, if you look at, and again, the number of calls that were made, the technical foul, I tweeted out to a friend of mine who's an Iowa grad, and I said, I think she fired the ball at the officials. Well, you look at it, it really wasn't at the officials. But if you look at the final report, Iowa had got a warning about delay of game. And that wasn't the first delay of game was early, I think in the second. And then that particular play happened later. So it was their second warning, which was a technical. So that was from the officials report. Now, if you go through, and again, folks, I know you're here for draft coverage, but I'm just saying this real quick. Because if you fought with me, this is what I understand. If you look at the statistics, both teams got basically the same number of fouls called. I mean, it was like, and I know Kim Mulkey, she's on the floor. Hell, I mean, I could go all the way back to Pat Summitt when she used to be at Tennessee, and she would get out on the floor. And, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough situation. I'm just going to tell you this, though. LSU played better than Iowa yesterday. LSU was a better basketball team than Iowa. And Iowa's got some really good players. But the officials, if you think the officials were the reason why that game went the way it did, I'm sorry. I'm going to lose more followers saying that. But I'm sorry. LSU outplayed Iowa yesterday, much like Iowa outplayed South Carolina to get into the finals.
Well, we are getting closer to the NFL draft, Brian, after your rampant LSU homerism and blinded defense of crooked officiating. We are getting closer to the NFL draft. I'll be honest, Brian, I didn't watch 1 second of the game, so I don't know if it was crooked or not. But we are getting closer to the NFL draft.
I can tell by the way you're reacting, you didn't watch 1 second of the game.
I know. I was just like, man, that is crazy.
But like millions of people did. It was one of the
I know they did.
Millions of people did. So
I know they did.
I'm proud of LSU, but we'll go on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to waste 7 minutes.
No, it's good. Today. It's good. We needed to explain all that. No, but we are getting closer to the NFL draft now. We are inside of a month now.
Yeah.
And for those of you that are on the YouTube right now, you can go ahead. Let us know. Give us your prediction right now for pick 26. Who do you think the Cowboys take at pick 26? Just drop the name in the comments here on the YouTube. And we will read some of your predictions next time on Love of the Star. But Brian, as we inch closer to pick 26, we're starting to get some reports about this 30 visit list, which are national visitors that the Cowboys are bringing in. Calvin Watkins from the Dallas Morning News, Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, Tom Pelissero of NFL Network, all reporting a few different names in the last couple of days. So we're going to cover some of these that we see on the 30 visit list now for the Cowboys. And the first one I want to bring up is the one that's most interesting to me, and that is Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are visiting Boston College wide receiver Zay Flowers, who is a good player, but man, this is the equivalent to me of if Chris Richard would have visited Denzel Ward, where it's like, well, this doesn't make any sense. This guy just has limitations that don't check boxes that you want. Zay Flowers is a slot-only receiver. He is not going to play outside at the next level, and Mike McCarthy has typically not been a fan of slot-only receivers. The only time that Robert Prince has been okay with slot-specific receivers, the receivers coach, is if they are excellent route runners. I think Zay Flowers is a really good route runner. I think he could improve. I think he could be better. He could be a little tighter, but the skill set is there to be an excellent one. But maybe that's where this is coming from. Maybe Prince just sees the tools for him to be an elite route runner, or the scouts see, hey, he's got the tools to become what Robert Prince has asked us to look for in receivers. But your thoughts in general on Zay Flowers as a player, and then specifically that the Cowboys bring him in here on a 30 visit.
Yeah, at 5'9", 182, I thought this was really a fun player to study. And, my first line was not as big as a minute, but makes every single play that's thrown his way. And, you see the start-stop quickness about him. He can make defenders look silly in the open field. He could be going 100 miles an hour, then stop on a dime and then redirect and go another way. So he has a very keen sense of how to play in small spots. And I mean, like when it's a tight area, he's able to kind of navigate his way because he's got outstanding balance, body control. He's hard to get a really good shot on because of the quickness and the movement. Catches the ball well on the move. I mean, he just can use him for all kinds of plays. And I kind of felt like that, that's what you're talking about, that guy that plays in the slot that is a mismatch player, that's got the quickness, it's got the agility, he's got the ability to finish. And I kind of feel like that when you watch him on film, he's one of those guys that appears to be having fun playing the game, and I like players like that. Like, he's making guys miss. He's, finishing plays. You see a happy, smiley guy, in that way because, he just loves playing the game. That's where I think it's really maybe a shift on the way that Mike McCarthy is thinking about his team, because traditionally you wouldn't say, you're right. Slot only players are not something that we've seen, Mike McCarthy, and they've even talked about it. They've even talked about those guys that they might not be the best fit. So the fact that Zay Flowers is a 30 visit guy, maybe there's a little bit of a shift in philosophy, but like my old boss, Ron Wolf from the Packers used to say, if you're a short guy, small guy, you better walk on waters. And Zay Flowers has some of those abilities where he can walk on water for you a little bit.
Yeah. I really think he's a good player. I think that the traits are really impressive to be an elite route runner. The quickness, the speed, the footwork, it's all really, really great. Do you feel at times like that speed and that quickness is almost can be a detriment to him a little bit, in terms of like, it almost feels at times like there's no pace to his route running at all. Like he almost feels a little hurried at times.
Well,
and
yeah.
The quickness of hurry up, get up, feel like that causes some drops at times. Obviously, slot only. He's not a very strong guy. So I mean that's going to be one of the reasons he's never going to be able to play outside. I don't think he's not going to be able to get off a press that way. I mean, unless the releases are just absurd. But smaller body type could become a more polished route runner. Drops can be an issue at times, but I mean, a really good player. I'm surprised because I know hands have always been a big thing for the Cowboys in their evaluation. Yeah. Obviously, the ability to play all three positions.
I think with this guy, there's a really good shot he's not going to be there when you pick. I mean, I know they're bringing him in, and maybe that if that's the case, maybe he's the best player on their board when if in fact he does make it to 26. Maybe they'll stack him in a way that he would be there. I just feel like, to me, when you watch him, of the shorter receiver guys that we're trying to evaluate, I don't see Addison. I just see Addison from USC as being more of a lighter guy, slider guy, not a shorter guy. But when you start to talk about those guys like Flowers, Scott of Cincinnati, Downs of North Carolina, Mims of Oklahoma, Washington from Penn State, when you start to talk about those shorter players, Flowers, I think, is the head of all those guys.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's a really, really good shot about him not being there. Now, I don't consider Smith and Jigba like a short guy. I mean, when you start to talk about the 5'9" and under guys, but Flowers, Scott, Downs, Mims, Washington, Dell is another one from Houston.
Tank Dell, yep.
I just named off 6 guys right there that you've got to figure out. But there's a side of me that believes when you watch Flowers play, it's where you have to get Flowers. You might be able to get Dell, that same, to me, a very similar type of player when you look at the way he plays. So depending on where you want, I mean, that's the thing about these shorter guys. Flowers will probably be gone before the Cowboys pick. That would be my guess. but there's several of these really the shorter good players. Scott I mentioned, Downs I mentioned, Mims, and Dell Washington in that crew as well from Penn State.
Now, one of the other receivers that they're going to visit here based off of the reports from Ian Rappaport, they are going to visit Jalen Hyatt, the receiver from Tennessee.
Right.
An absolute burner as a receiver. I actually kind of have wondered if they're trying to do things with the West Coast and looking for maybe more of a true prototype X. I've kind of wondered if the other Tennessee receiver might make some sense for them in like the third round, a guy like Cedric Tillman.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest Tillman fan. But when you look at Jalen Hyatt, Brian, I don't know about you. I know there have been some comparisons to Deshaun Jackson with Jalen Hyatt. I don't think that's a bad one. I'll tell you the guy that he kind of reminded me of as a prospect coming out. He reminded me of Will Fuller. You remember Will Fuller? Yeah,
sure do.
That was right? Kind of the guy. Yeah. So if Will Fuller wouldn't have gotten just hurt his entire career, then I think that's sort of the player that Jalen Hyatt is. But obviously just a blur running downfield.
Yeah, that's, and you mentioned Cedric Tillman on the opposite side from Tennessee. Tillman is 6'3", 213 pounds. And just to kind of talk about him just a little bit before I talk about Hyatt, this guy, Tillman, he reminds me of what the Chargers play with, kind of a steady route runner, come back to the ball, that kind of, that big body guy that can't run great, runs well enough. But you mentioned that about the potential, for the West Coast, the inside game and stuff like that. I mean, this guy will catch the ball in traffic, Tillman, and I do like him quite a bit. Now, when you mention Hyatt, I mean, every time there was like a big play, and trust me, I watched my beloved LSU Tigers play Tennessee at a game in Death Valley there in Baton Rouge, and these receivers just destroyed LSU in the second. The ball was going down the field, and Jalen Hyatt's a big part of that. He is tall, like he's lean. He's 6 foot. He's 176. He just runs through defense. I mean, he just runs through them like nothing. I mean, if you don't stop him or slow him down, he gains separation just like right off the jump. So like I put in my notes, like a home run hitter in every sense of the word. The good hands, the ability to adjust in him, made several big plays where he had to adjust over his head, but his length, he has the length to stretch for a ball no matter where it was thrown. So the tracking part of it, I even said this in my notes, one of the best finishers in college football when you watch him. And you can see he plays at a different speed than everyone else. There was a very famous player at Tennessee, a receiver named Willie Gault. And I remember one time Willie Gault was a track guy and super, 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 super fast. And one time I remember sitting in a meeting and my boss goes at the time Ron Wolf goes, he was talking about Willie Gault. And he says, you know what, look at Willie Gault play. You watch Willie Gault play. You know what Willie Gault's got different than everybody else? His socks move faster than everybody else's socks. And we all kind of looked at it, and it made sense. He's faster. I mean, Jalen Hyatt's socks are faster than everyone else's socks. That's what
we were in Indy. I was watching it. You go downstairs to one of the hotels there.
Oh, they're training in the hallway.
And Exos trains downstairs in one of the ballrooms.
Yeah,
he ran. That's one of the few guys, and I've seen it a couple times, but that's one of the few guys that when you're standing there watching him run, he looks blurry. Yeah. He looks blurry when he runs by you. That's how fast he is. And so just absolutely ridiculous there. Obviously, the questions about being 176 pounds.
Yeah.
He's going to get the questions about, is he going to be able to get off of press? Because I think there are times you see that when guys.
Is he CeeDee Lamb? Is he CeeDee Lamb body and weight wise?
CeeDee was a little heavier. CeeDee was like 190. And
was
so
he that much?
Yeah. CeeDee was a little bit heavier.
Why do I think I could go back and look at my notes? Why am I doubting you, Bobby? I shouldn't doubt you here, but I'm doubting
because maybe I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot, but he, I believe he was 190 coming out. I'll look right now. CeeDee Lamb, he was 198 at the combine.
What?
Yeah.
I don't remember him be okay. My bad then. I don't. CeeDee Lamb to me seems like a very, very long finish guy. Well, I was
He was
thinking
6'2". He was 6'2", so he was 2 inches taller
right,
than Hyatt,
right.
and so he is thinner built. But yeah, I don't know. With Hyatt, there are times you see that people do get physical with him. He can get knocked off the route. There's the old Corey Coleman question with Hyatt for some people about like, well, what's the route tree? Like he's running, he's kind of limited on what he's shown. Can he run the full route tree? Some of that's at play with Hyatt, but overall a really good receiver. It's just questions about the play strength. Can he play all the positions at receiver? And then is that the right fit at receiver for this offense if what they're trying to do is the West Coast?
Yeah, it's funny. I just looked at my notes on CeeDee Lamb. He was 6'1", 192 is what we had in the measurements. 4'48" is what we had. I thought he was a much thinner player. Okay, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupted.
No, just the point of when you see Hyatt, even with the skill set that he has, that's really good. Is that the skill set that fits what they're trying to do with this offense? Like, I mean, he doesn't strike me as a West Coaster. Like it doesn't feel like they're going to be taking a lot of vertical shots with Hyatt. So is that really the type of receiver you're trying to add here to what you're doing?
I kind of felt like with Hyatt that there were times where he did catch in traffic, but the scheme.
Not that he can't. It's just I don't know that you've seen him run the route tree that'll be used.
Oh, no. They're snapping the ball every 20 seconds there, every 23. I mean, the route tree is it's not what, but when the guy's got traits of like his ability to like adjust to the ball, and able to finish. And, the scheme kind of moves him around. I did say we'll likely need some polish as a route runner, but don't see that as a huge issue. Plenty of passes where he's wide open on the play. I mean, that's kind of what you're getting with the guy. I think there's that ability. I think there is an ability to be a better route runner. I think you're absolutely right about that. Or you're asking me if I think that he can do that.
Yeah.
I think he can.
You're listening to the Love of the Star podcast, the Love of the Stars and Audacy.
CeeDee Lamb.
You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, let's run through a couple of these other names here, and we'll flesh out the position a little bit around this next name because I think it's relevant to talk about some of these other guys. One of the guys that they're bringing in here is Trenton Simpson, the linebacker from Clemson. And this one's an interesting one in terms of I don't know that a lot of people would be thrilled with a Trenton Simpson pick. I mean, I think it's easy probably because of Clemson and he's a freak athlete for people to go, oh, he's Isaiah Simmons.
Right.
That one gets thrown around a little bit, but Trenton Simpson, a fantastic athlete, big time college pedigree. Your thoughts on Trenton Simpson, and then maybe we'll discuss a little bit some of the linebackers around him.
Yeah, it's 6'2", 235. I thought this guy was a really good. I see him as an inside linebacker. Have him on my stack on my board in the inside linebackers in the second round is where I have him. So, but he's one of the top guys when you start to talk about the inside linebackers. And I'll put out my board here so everybody can see that. But like Sanders is from Arkansas outside. Simpson from Clemson inside, Campbell from Iowa inside. So my second round linebackers inside, Simpson and Campbell would be that guy. Then Henley all the way down Washington State in the third round, just to give you an idea where I've got my guys. But the thing with Trenton Simpson is that he moves and reacts really, really well. And when he can cover some ground when he's on the move, he's got physical power. There's some pop. There's some strength to his game. He's got some sideline to sideline to his game. He plays downhill. I didn't see him get knocked back or pushed off balance. He was always attacking. He doesn't, he's always, he's avoiding blocks by playing on the move, which doesn't mean he gets hooked up a lot. But I mean, he can use his hands. He finishes well, the leverage part of it. If you watch the North Carolina State game, he kind of played as a spy in that game, was used as a blitzer some. You got to love the way this guy attacks the ball. I mean, he's a forward player to him. So I kind of like the toughness, the hard nose. I just don't see him coming off the field. But you know what? Like I say, I didn't see him as that like enough for me to put in that first round. I think he's probably a player that's somewhere between, maybe 21 and 28, where you kind of figure out where he is on your board?
So the name that I want to throw in here, I want to throw in a couple other linebacker names here, because if they're considering a Trenton Simpson potentially at 26, maybe there are other names that we should be talking about here. One of the guys that I know you have not been as high on as some other folks. I think I actually like him more than you do. That's Drew Sanders from Arkansas.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Sanders, a local guy from Denton Ryan? But what are your thoughts on Sanders? And is it a thing where you just don't buy into the hype of him being like a top 15 player, or you don't necessarily even know that you'd feel comfortable at 26?
You know what? He's another guy, again, I mentioned it. I have in the second round, and this guy, he was a transfer from Alabama. And so 6'4", 235, the guy can flow. He keeps his eyes on the ball. I like the way he reacts. I like the awareness, the instinct. There's things about him though, that there were a couple of snaps where he got caught up and he wasn't getting to the ball. I mentioned about the flow and stuff and keeping his eyes and react. But if you say something you don't like about the guy, I thought there was a couple of those snaps where he didn't do exactly what he needed to do to get off and to make the play. I think that the thing about him is that he got power in this guy at 6'4", 235. He can walk blockers back. I mean, you see some leverage and power. That's as a pass rusher. So you do see that time, like I say, to walk those guys back. He could get the quarterback on the ground. I mean, if you're talking about a guy now, this is interesting because, when you start to talk about Micah Parsons, I can't show you film where Micah Parsons and people like, oh, Broadish, you just didn't look. I could show you film where Micah Parsons wasn't in college used at Penn State as a rush end. Yeah. I could show you film of Drew Sanders being a linebacker and a rush end. I could show you that. If you said, oh, well, hey, Drew Sanders is as a rusher, he got 5 sacks, 6 sacks. I could go back and show you at Arkansas where he did that. So to me, that's where, if you're looking for that type of guy that could be maybe the opposite, could play linebacker, but also give you some pass rush, that's kind of where Drew Sanders is. And I think his height and his length also gives him some chance in some coverage. But I think that because of his movement stuff too, but I'm kind of feeling like his rush ability is better than his drop ability.
Yeah, I think that if you were to look at, I think that he draws some comparisons to me, at least in terms of the skill set, to a guy like the way Anthony Barr was coming out. A little bit less. I think
Barr was a little bit better rusher. I think
that's what I was about to say. I feel like Sanders is a little bit better natural linebacker.
Yeah.
Barr is a better rusher. So whereas Barr was kind of like an edge linebacker hybrid, he might be a linebacker edge hybrid.
I remember real quick, Bobby, going to we were at Valley Ranch, and one of the last few times we were at Valley Ranch. And I remember leaving my office and walking down the hall, and I saw Will McClay's light on in his room. So I knocked on the door, poked my head in there, and he was putting together a tape of Anthony Barr, UCLA, as a pass rusher. Everybody's talking about him. Is he an end? Is he a linebacker? And I remember sitting there with Will, and we were watching him play. And Will's like, I'm like, what are you trying to sell him as? And he goes, I'm trying to sell him as a rusher. I'm trying to sell him as a rusher to my guys. And so that's that, I don't know if you could sell Sanders just as a rusher, but I think you could sell him as a good enough linebacker that can rush.
Yeah. And like I said, he's not quite Barr as a pass rusher. And I think that, but I mean, I think you see some of the other things. I think you see similar athleticism. I think you see guys who both had some trouble with eye candy playing as linebackers on their college tape. That's some of the misdirection stuff got both of them. Maybe the better comparison is a better rushing version of what Van Der Esch was coming out.
Sure.
Van Der Esch was the guy who his problem is something that Sanders does. Remember, Van Der Esch had problems getting off of blocks.
Getting off blocks, yeah.
And that doesn't, I don't see that as much with Sanders. Sanders' instincts are not as good. That's the biggest question I have with him. The other linebacker that I'm curious about, a guy that I really, really like, and I don't think is getting enough discussion, but should we have Dayan Henley from Washington State in the same
I love that guy.
Sanders? Should he be in the same conversation with Sanders and Simpson?
Absolutely, he should. But, the coward I am, have him in the third round, and he's actually probably a better player than that. I bet you he goes before that when you start to talk about the inside linebackers, that I've seen. But, he's 6'1", he's 225. People might be turned off by his size. But this guy's got a nose for the ball, man. Instincts, recognition. When he sees it, man, he is gone. I mean, he is a great job of attacking. His mission is to be the first guy there. You see it every single time with the way that he runs, that he is going to try to beat everybody to the football. He's a really good open field tackler. He's a true wrap-up guy, and he plays downhill and he plays in a hurry, and he's tough as a boot is one of my notes that I said about him. And I love the fact that, like, he's a hard guy to fool. You mentioned about Sanders and some of the eye candy and the misdirection stuff like that.
Yeah.
This guy's not going to be out of position.
Nope.
Jalen Henry is not going to be out of position when you watch him play.
So two more names here on the defensive line that we see they're visiting. The first one is from LSU. Go Tigers. Jalen Roy, the defensive tackle, 6'3", 305, Baton Rouge native, a guy that the Cowboys are visiting here. Your thoughts on Jacqueline Roy as a potential? This would be, at least for me, Brian, I don't know about you, this for me would be more like a third or fourth round guy.
Yeah, no, I think you absolutely have him right. And to be honest with you, let me see exactly where I put him there off the top of my head when we're starting to look at these defensive linemen. I actually have him in the 5th round myself, is where I've got him. And I know the Cowboys are probably a lot higher on him than others. But I kind of feel like that he's a guy that he was highly recruited out of LSU. And you mentioned he's from Baton Rouge. He was projected as the next best big thing for the LSU defense. And the more you watch, the more you like the way he plays. But he's a little tight in the way. So he doesn't always, when you watch him play in the gap, the leverage and stuff like that. But his upper body strength and power he's got a lot of energy. He's a guy who could kind of play a couple different ways. He could one gap up the field. When I mean one gap is you take that shoulder and you just fire the gap. And then you also can get him to play some two gap where he'll extend his hands, he'll look inside, look outside, and then but he needs to be a little bit more consistent taking on blocks. I think there's been some limited starting experience though with him at LSU, but he's just got to get better with his pass rush plans and stuff like that. He's really disrupted because of his power. He's not going to win with pass rush moves because he's just going to try and bully guys. That's kind of how I see this guy playing.
The other guy that that we have on the 30 visit list of the 5 that are confirmed right now is Tyler Lacey, the defensive end from Oklahoma State. I know that's a guy you haven't been able to watch it. No. I watched him last week just because I knew he was eligible for a local visit.
Right.
And so I was anticipating he was going to get invited because of that. And he I guess is getting the national visit just from the reports. I trust the report that we're hearing. It came from Calvin Watkins. And they have visited local guys as nationals before because you get different things you can do with guys when they come as nationals as opposed to just a local visitor. But Tyler Lacey, man, at Oklahoma State, that's a guy who, when you look at the build, just the build, Brian, it looks like the laboratory created defensive end. He's 6'4", he's 280. The arms are, I think, 34. If not, they're just close. The hands are damn near 11. So just like a big, powerful. But the stunning thing is that when you hear a frame like that, what do you think, Brian? What do you think the play style is? Just when you hear 6'4", 280, long arms, big hands, like you think power, right?
Right.
That's a strong side defensive end.
Exactly. Parcells taught us that the 6'4", 6'5", 285 is usually what we call a 5 technique or a head-up defensive end in a 3-4. Because you talk about length, you talk about hand strength, you talk about, I mentioned the ability to two-gap, inside, outside, control the blocker at the point of attack. That's that when I go all the way back to a guy when we first started putting guys together, Chris Canty, who was drafted by the Cowboys. Again, I know that goes way back in the day, but you know a 2005 draft. I know it was a long time ago, but the 6'4", 6'5", 285 guy at defensive end was always what we called a 5 technique or a head up player.
Yeah, and Lacey's a guy who also, like, with all those measurables, you're talking about a guy who benched 30 reps
Jeez.
at the combine.
Now,
and
okay, that's impressive.
Yeah, but you hear that, Brian. You watch it. There is a stunning lack of power when he plays.
Oh.
It's unreal how often he gets.
What's my phobia? What do we call that thing? When players don't play very strong, like my offensive tackle.
Oh, your bias.
My bias. Yeah, please. But you know what? If a guy is long armed and he's benched 30, how many times did you say?
30 reps.
30 reps with long arms. Geez, that's hard to do, man. And he's not. I got to watch him tonight because
here's the test. I don't want to spoil. I don't want to get you in your head thinking I don't want to poison the waters for you. But I just think when I saw the guy, I see you look at the frame, you go, okay, that's a laboratory built strong side defensive end who should play with power. He's a guy who actually, like, from what I see, doesn't rush to the chest a lot. He's not a bull, because when he bull rushes, he loses. Wow. It's something that doesn't totally. And then you look at, he's a 5'1", 140 guy. He's a 7'6" 3-cone guy. So there's stiffness in the testing. I don't think you see a lot of, fluid hips in his tape. So to me, it looks like a guy who looks the part of should be a good strong side defensive end, but hasn't put the tools together yet to be that kind of a player. And so I don't know what the thought is with Tyler Lacey. Lacey is not a guy I would pick probably until the 6th round. Just because I don't like a guy who looks, everything about you screams you should play with power and you don't. You lose whenever things become physical, and there's not like a lot of bend there. I will say he's got a little bit of nuance with the pass rush, and so that's something that's encouraging that you see there. But to me, I look at it and I go, that feels like somebody who should be a better bull rusher, should be a better edge setter, should be somebody who has more success playing with power than he does.
Yeah.
You are listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, it is now time for our Dean Julia Love of the Star mailbag, where we take questions from our dear sweet listeners. First question here. Let's go with Kyle. Kyle's asking, who would need to be left on the board for you to feel comfortable trading back in the first round, Brian?
It's a good question, because let's do this, and you help me with this one, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I don't feel like any of the cornerbacks, the top corners, are going to be left. I think Porter, Gonzalez, Witherspoon are all going to be gone. I think Carter, the defensive tackle from Georgia, is going to. I'm just going through my board, my first round guys. I don't think your edges are going to be there. Now we'll see about Murphy from Clemson. How close that's going to be.
I think Murphy goes before Nolan Smith. I think Nolan.
Okay. There you go. Wilson, Anderson, Murphy are gone. I think it'll be close on Robinson. I think Gibbs will be there. And so all the quarterbacks, the Young, Stroud, Levis will all be gone. Skoronski will be gone. This isn't it. Let me throw a guy at you, Bob. Let me throw a guy at you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about Darnell Wright from Tennessee? What do you think about Darnell Wright, the offensive tackle from Tennessee?
I mean, at 26, or you mean just in general?
If you had to move back.
I mean, I like him. What are we talking about? We're talking about playing him at left guard here?
We're talking about playing him at guard, because if you look at him, if you and this is one of those things, I wonder if he is a better player than what you're going to get at guard. And I mean, like the prospect of him playing tackle, and maybe you could do it with Avila. Maybe
Avila, yeah.
Avila. Maybe you could do it with him, but I wonder at 6'5" and 333 pounds that Wright would be more of a prospect to play guard and then potentially move to tackle if you had to. But this guy with Wright, I think he is a bully. I mean, mauler, brawler. Man, you're at guard. You're kind of like, if you could come back, and here I am thinking about Ron Leary, but that's what worked at left guard for the Cowboys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That
and
type
I'll
of
say
guy.
this. I think what is average to below average athleticism for Wright at right tackle becomes average to maybe a little above average athleticism at left guard.
Yeah,
Like,
I
think the athleticism is more palatable for Wright if you're talking about playing him at guard than tackle.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm just okay. If they're guys like that, I think you're going to probably be missing. I would be surprised if you're missing 2 of the tight ends. I think you're going to miss.
I would not be surprised if there's not a single tight end off the board when the Cowboys pick.
Like you're saying that Mayer, Kincaid, Musgrave, Washington will all be there.
I could see it. I'm not saying that it definitely.
If that's the case, if that's the case, then you could trade back if you're hunting a tight end. If you tell me that but you might just say, okay, which is the best tight end, and let's take him. You know?
Yeah.
If you like Mayer, take him. If you got Kincaid higher, take him. You know? I don't think you want to get too cute there. But trading back, I'm not interested in getting out of the first round, by the way. You know, you would love to have that 5th-year option on Diggs right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd love to. But, it's going to put some pressure on you. But I don't know. I mean, these wide receivers, they might be, Hyatt might be there. I don't think Flowers will be. Johnston, Addison. You talked about Addison being a slider,
Potentially, yeah. I like it from where he was talked about as a top 15 pick not long ago. And I think just the size, the testing, all these sorts.
I agree.
They make him ripe to potentially fall. Question from our buddy John Owning from Pro Football Focus. Happy birthday, John! It is his birthday today.
Yeah. Cool.
John's got 2 questions here, and I don't know if you've got an answer for the second. So I'll give you the first part, which is worst grade you've given a prospect who was picked in the first round. And he also wants to know, have you watched Corey Trice from Purdue yet?
Yeah, he's the reason why I watch Corey Trice.
What'd you think of Corey Trice?
I'm a big fan of Corey Trice. I really, really am a big. And let me address that one first if I can.
6'3", 206, 30.
Yes.
Arms.
Yeah. This guy usually plays as the boundary corner, and for a tall, long guy, I feel like he moved really, really well. I mean, I don't know if he's great anticipation or he's a great guesser. But there are plenty of snaps where you see him play and drive on a ball, or he sees it and he'll knock his share of passes down in coverage. The length is really, really good. Plays the ball well down the field. He does a really good job of locating and making it play. He has a real feel for how to play press coverage. So he can be a hard guy to get away from in that mode. But man, I feel like I think he was a lot better of a press player than off. But I'm not saying he was poor at being an off guy, but the ball comes to his direction. The ball skills, the reactions, all that stuff are good. Receivers make mistakes when he's around them. Like balls are clanging off him and stuff like that. So Corey Trice from Purdue, number 23, I really, really, really like him a lot. I really do.
And then the other question, the worst grade you've ever had. Now, I don't know if this is in like your draft show area, because I know you've said you guys had Shante Carver in the 7th round, and Shante Carver went.
Oh yeah, no.
So, but just let's keep it to like the last 10 years, just in the draft show area. Who's the worst graded player you had that ended up going in the first?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I wish I had all my boards.
Was Colton Miller or Tyler Smith?
Colton Miller was probably really low for me because I was not a Colton Miller fan coming out of UCLA at all. I'll tell you what, I had Travis Frederick in the 3rd round.
Where did you have Cole Strange last year?
Cole Strange he
was Chattanooga.
Yeah, I think
Cole Strange, guard from Chattanooga, who I think a lot of people felt like was outside the top 100. when he went to New England.
Yeah, I think I had him in. Oh, geez, where did I have Cole Strange? Let me look at my stack real quick. Just talk among yourselves as you would.
Yes,
Bob,
yeah. So I know that, like I said, I know Colton Miller was one that was low for Brian. He mentioned there.
Colton Miller was way low.
Man, you know what? We got Colton Miller, Travis Frederick, Tyler Smith, maybe Cole Strange. It just sounds like offensive linemen that you're lower on than the NFL is. And so, gosh, I'm trying to think who it would be.
No, it's a really good question because I'd have
I'll spike the football on this one. I don't care. And I'm not the proper evaluator that Brian is probably, and so it may not count. But I did say
I'm doing radio right now.
I graded Paxton Lynch in the 4th round. And
I had Paxton Lynch. Yeah, but you were right about Paxton Lynch. I mean, I had him way too high. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks in the draft. So
I was not a fan of Paxton Lynch. I'll tell you the reverse. The guy that I had graded.
Okay, here we go.
Was Amara Darboh, receiver from Michigan, who I was certain was going to be a star and was not.
Okay, I'm looking at last year's.
Yeah,
I'm looking at last year's. I was looking at last year's stuff. Okay, what round was Dean the linebacker? I had him way too high. Way too high. The Dean from Georgia, right?
Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean had some questions about his knee. That one I think you get a pass on. But where was Cole Strange for you? Because he went in the 1st, and I remember a lot of people were floored by that.
Oh, that's true. Oh, 4th round.
Oh, see, okay, that's probably it then. You
knew it. You're there. You go. Because we had Green, Zion Johnson, Kennard, Saylor, Hayes, Ryan Ingram, and then Gadecki. Isn't that how you say it? With Gadecki?
Luke Gadecki.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Strange. So I had Gadecki, Strange in the 4th round is what I had. And so that would have been my highest graded 1st round. It's funny because with the Cowboys was weird. I had Tolbert in the 3rd, Tyler Smith in the 3rd, Sam Williams in the 3rd, Ridgeway in the 3rd.
Oh, you got a bunch of 3rd rounders. That's good.
Yeah, but it was like a great draft. It was a great draft for the Cowboys if you kind of look at it that way. I mean, I had all those guys. I had all those guys picked in the 3rd round: Tolbert, Tyler Smith, Sam Williams, and Ridgeway.
I'm looking through the past. I'm looking through the past here. Jordan Brooks, linebacker that the Seahawks took in the 1st round. That was a guy that I had in the 3rd round. I had Caleb McGarry, 2019 tackle to the Falcons. I had him in the 3rd round. I know I've been
Ferguson. I had Ferguson in the 5th in that draft. This last draft or the last, so that's weird.
So yeah, I mean there's plenty of them there, but you what do you think then? You think the furthest was probably Cole Strange in the 4th round?
I would say Cole Strange, and you mentioned about Shante Carver. I think I told the story about Shante Carver for the Packers.
Yeah, we had him in
the 7th round when he was picked. Yeah, so that's kind of crazy. Yeah, for sure.
That does it for us here on the Love the Star podcast. Remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, drop in the comments below your pick for pick 26. We'll read out some of your thoughts on players that the Cowboys could take at pick 26 on the next episode. Until next time, we will talk to you guys later.